I've been participating in countless interviews for the purpose of the book, for the purpose of gathering data, and for the purpose of collaborating with companies, because I would love to work and to collaborate with charities, with corporations, to raise awareness, number one, on the importance of understanding that character and fluency, emotional fluency, mental and emotional fluency don't always equate with answering the questions that interviewers and recruiters have on the bloody papers during the interview. Whoever has created a system, it's so stupid, so non-human and so backwards that no wonder that you have 1 in 6 people today suffering from mental health conditions caused by work, caused by toxic leadership, caused by toxic work environments. And you have that because at some point you had some idiotic management and idiotic HR rules and trainings made by people who have no emotional intelligence, have no spiritual development, have no idea of human psychology and how the human interrelations work. And as a result, they just vomited rules that are easy to train. And these people are ticking boxes by those rules. Yesterday, I've been in an interview with a charity, and I was appalled. I was sitting in front of 3 blokes, and I felt like in front of a firing squad. I couldn't even take my breath in between the questions. I couldn't even finish the sentence. And before I finished the sentence, I was interrupted by this older GP guy, that he was the chair, clearly not at all listening. Like he was like pretending, yeah, thank you for that, but no active listening, nothing. If my answers were out of the box, which generally are, and are for a purpose to see how actively the interviewer is listening, and I hope that they are giving me some presentation to make, and they have an order of the way they want to do the interview. What I do to see how adaptable they are to test their interpersonal skills and their ability to live up to the standards that they expect from their employees. I propose or I switch the order in which the interview goes. So if they say we'll ask you the questions first and then we'll allow you to do the presentation, I propose here's an idea. I think I'm going to start presenting first, and by the end of the presentation, I bet most of your questions will already be answered. And this is what I've done yesterday in an interview. Not to mention that they were taken by surprise. They lost their way on the paper, and clearly, because I have thoroughly researched the charity dealing with, it's in my field of expertise, so it's mental health. It's the once you know your field, once you master your area, then there is little that can shock you or can surprise you. And then comes the question, so how would you manage the team? And this is another thing, because it's linked to how you hire the people. Leading by example. What is your leadership style? Well, you walk your talk. You don't manage. I hate to manage people because I hate to be managed. Do you like to be managed? I asked the chair, I asked the CEO. Neither of them, they agreed that neither of them like to be managed. I don't like to be managed. You're asking me to manage people, and I guarantee you that neither of them like to be managed, even if they are in an inferior role position. What they want to be is to be given the space, to be mentored, to be seen at their true potential. Because this is what we all want and need, to be seen, not to the place we are now, but to the place where we could be. And that potential in the other's eyes to be our feedback mechanism by which we judge ourselves and to the level of which we aspire to arrive. Intrinsically, without that person, without that manager having to manage us, this is how you solve your conundrum, how to increase people's engagement, people's motivation. If you try to manage them, you are just putting them off, because you are exerting an external authority, and you rob them of their internal glow, because you are forcing them to fit to some preconceived notions that you have of who they are and who they are supposed to be, at least 9 to 5. And that human is more than your bloody job description, to which you yourselves as employers don't stick. So by keeping them in that lower, unmotivating state, by playing by somebody else's rules, you have just robbed them of their ability to raise to their potential. It's a disaster. Like the workplace, like mental health, recruitment, and management, that this trio, like you can't separate them. You want to address your mental health at work, I guarantee if you don't improve, number one, get rid of the managers. Like if you have people getting sick, being demotivated, stop looking at people, at the employees, look at your management. Obviously, number 1.1 will be pay the people the right bloody wages to match to the cost of living crisis. Number 2 is look at your recruitment process, because the recruiters generally are either HR or the managers themselves, the CEOs in a smaller companies or charities, like in this case yesterday. These 3 blokes yesterday, I call them blokes. Normally this is a blokes lingo and I'm not using it, but I use it in quite a derogatory way, because I felt soiled by that interview. Not only, as I said, being in a fiery squad. I'm not part of the woke mentality, but I'm not using terminologies from the vocabulary. But yesterday it came to my mind as such, as that one term, being in front of this old GP, retired GP in his 80s, that was firing questions from the paper, not listening to my answers, not letting me finish my sentences, and putting the phone to with an alarm to, by minutes, by which I had to answer. And then if his phone rang, that was that. I had to be like, forget your sentence, just next question. I mean, it was so rude, it was so barbaric, and it was so the terminology from the woke movement was the white. It's not white supremacy. It wasn't that. It's the white patriarchal mentality or something like that. Anyway, as I said, I'm not into the woke vocabulary, but this is how I felt. You could see this dinosaur in a room. By used to see people in 10 minutes and to really not really pay attention. I wonder what that GP has ever done for any of his patients, because the way in which he treated me was appalling. I mean, I knew already I'm not going to take any of the roles with them, but I felt sorry for whoever is going to take that role, because these people should not even exist anymore. In their late 70s or they were just like, yeah, you want to keep the older population active as long as you do provide value. The fact that you are on a board of trustees and that you were a GP, and those are all style credentials. Show me what you actually do. Show me what improvement do you provide. Yesterday he did only dégâts, like in French, only damages, and damages to their reputation as well, because if that is how that charity is, by the chair, I'm sorry. I started the interview, he's an artist, and he had this macabre type of art, it's like the death mask, and I was really struck by that interest, and I asked him, why is that? He refused to answer. That is for another time, maybe, or something like that. It's like, I'm paying you a compliment. I'm interested in what you're doing. You don't even dignify me with at least half an answer about that. Honest about it. It's like, it had nothing to do with it at all. But yeah, horrible treatment. So going back to the mental health theme, to the motivation, to the way you recruit, You are looking at psychopaths, like the narcissists, or completely emotionally illiterate individuals. Well, if they're emotionally illiterate, they're spiritually illiterate. If they're illiterate in those two dimensions, I guarantee they're stupid as because no amount of book intelligence, book information can compensate for the lack of emotional intelligence and spiritual intelligence, because the character shows in these two dimensions. So if your management, if your HR, if your recruitment team panel is made of these individuals, I guarantee you that the good people are not going to pass through, because we are pissing off these illiterate individuals. The emotionally available, the emotionally literate and elastic people, there will be people that are confident and comfortable within themselves. They have an idea, they research it, they have the expertise, and they can withstand your criticism. They have arguments, and they leave space for your arguments, for your criticism, and it could be a back and forth without necessarily the aim of them winning, but there is a dialogue from which both parties could end up being enriched. In this case yesterday, however, there was no dialogue. There was like, I ask the questions, you answer, and I'll tell you how long the answer can be. And it wasn't, as you can see, I can go on and on and on. But if you really want to get solutions, you can get so much out of a conversation. There was no conversation. It was like a clear-cut, old-style, I'm the boss, I'm the one who is in charge. You are completely disempowered. When you have this kind of individuals, you will never get in your organization good, knowledgeable people, because they are weeded out. Because we're the first to spot these incompetent. And these will be the best people you are losing in your organization. And the worst people that will answer the questions in the way that it pleases these emotionally illiterate, incompetent individuals. They will only hire incompetent people that will pay lip service, that will have their political discourse to be impeccable. So they will be the first that will get through the needle. So you will end up in your organization with sycophants that are there to get the job, to get the money. And because they are not internally motivated by their role, if they really were, they would have fought, as I did yesterday. You say the truth, whether you get the position or not, because you stand by your standards. By your personal standards, by the standards that you want to provide to the clients you are working with. So you have integrity. And if you have integrity, you're bound to piss off a lot of people, especially in this day and age. So if they don't have integrity, they would just go along with a wave, and as soon as they are employed, they'll play politics. They'll play the office politics, which lead. I'm not going to describe them how they work. You probably know very well how they work. But they end in that toxic workplace environment from which, as I said, 1 in 6 people become mentally ill, especially with depression. When you have presenteeism, you have absenteeism, you have all kinds of coping mechanisms, burnout. It's like there are so many, stress at work. You put the labels you want. The reality is, it is a toxic, radioactive environment in which the real people, the few that you have, if you have them, are the first to be affected, because they are empathic, they feel the others, they are honest with themselves, and that lack of honesty from the others force them to close themselves more, and also to shoulder more of the responsibility of the performance, because the others are good at talking but not good at delivering. So to make this big circle, come back home, like the number one thing that you need to pay attention, other than please pay them fair wages and change your management and change your HR and recruitment strategies contact me if you want. Like, go back to the good old school of looking people in the eye and let them speak. And if you listen, obviously, if you know your bloody job, if you listen, you will hear things they say and things they don't say. And active listening, it's not a skill, it's a gift. It's a gift that you must develop if you want to really bring and maintain the best people in your company. The world is full of promises. The world is full of faking till you make it. You don't want these people to come to your gates. What you want are truly invested individuals that are sworn, they have the calling to what they're doing, and they're not shy to tell you to piss off when you're wrong, and they're not shy to tell you, like, there's so many, specialists and like, oh, don't swear, don't say that, don't say. I had an interview which I teared because I was explaining, how I helped somebody and how I came to the mental health. I have 2 law degrees in the background, and I came to the mental health because myself, I was so broken. And anyway, that another charity, that CEO, although he loved the interview, that kept it for 2 hours because he couldn't have enough of me talking. But in front of seeing me with some, glitter from the tears in my eyes, he was like scared. Do you want 10 minutes to compose yourselves? Compose myself, for God's sake. There's like, if you can't laugh, swear, cry together, you are not meant to be a team. People spend more time in your work environment than they spend with their families. Your family, like all families, it's either dysfunctional family or a functional family. And for it to be a functional family, you need to be real. Political correctness is not going to cut it. It's what has got us to the stage of mental health decline that we are. You can't say that, you can't say that, you can't say that, you can't say that. What can I say? By chipping at our identity and editing everything that pertains to who we are to match somebody else's description is the death of the human in today's society. So make sure that you revise your recruitment strategies. Be real. And only by being real and developing your emotional intelligence, your spiritual intelligence, and looking people in the eyes and really listening to what they have to say. Throw your bloody papers away with questions. Whoever came with the idea of having papers in an interview by which they literally read from the paper, and that they mark you until you get the score. I was like, whoever has invented that technique is the one that should be shot, because it's really adding to the mental health pandemic in a work environment, because we are not having people looked at and interviewed by their character, by their true identity, and people are learning to fake their answers. People are learning to fake their whole identity 9 till 5 until they completely forget who they are. You have created a split personality society. That's this kind of political correctness and being the bleached employee that you try to get from your papers and from your questions. So make sure that you develop yourself, develop your management, your HR, do some soul searches, for God's sake. Get real, get human, and let's transform this society back to let's give the world back to the humans, because machines have taken over, are going to take over. But we have been robotized and lobotomized without realizing. So that's why we are suffering. That's why the mental pandemic. That's why the chaos in the world now. We have forgotten to be caring and true, real humans. So yeah, that's the message I wanted to transmit today. After it's a bit of a rant, but well, hey, do what you will with it.